Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. Arlie Ingalls here, and this is a video in my recipe series. My new cookbook, Cooking on the Prairie with the Ingalls, is now available on Amazon, and each one of the recipes that I have in the cookbook, I'm doing a video to talk about some of the things that you can't really include in the video or in the book. It would just make the recipe too long and too much to read. So I'm creating a video. You can, on each one of the recipes, you can make the recipe exactly the way it is in the book without this video, but this video will give you some other techniques and things that I do to make the recipe different or successful in my case. So today we're going to talk about one of the appetizers, the queso. This recipe is one that I've made for about 50 years. So the original recipe is included in the cookbook along with all those other things that I've changed over the years. So I'm going to take you through the process that I use to make the recipe, and along the way I will tell you how I've varied those items over the years and what I actually do today. So one of the nice things about cooking where you're not baking, most of the ingredients are going to be added to your taste, and that's what I do. So those flavors that I want to bring forward, I will add more of than other flavors. So let's start from the beginning. First of all, for me, chopping the vegetables, I like a large chop on them. So I like the vegetables to be fairly large so that when you get one on your chip, you know what you have. But that's my personal preference. You can also dice them up very small if that's your preference. And the same thing with the meats that we put in there. I like to have kind of a rough chop on them. I don't like it too small, but others that have made the recipe have made theirs very, very small. So it's up to you. You can do it either way. But here's the process that I use. So originally the recipe called for a half a pound of ground beef. I, in time, decided to add a half a pound of sausage. Sausage has a lot of fat in it, and fat gives you flavor. So I put the two together, but sometimes you're gonna have to be careful if you've got people coming to your gathering that do not eat pork, which is it's a thing in many communities. Make sure that you are sensitive to that. I'm sensitive to it. If I know that's going to happen, then I use only ground beef. So I put the two together. Again, I do kind of a loose chop. When you're cooking it, don't cook it all the way through. So two things are going to happen. Once you get it kind of brown, you can still see some pink pieces in there. You take it off the flame. And then at that point, also check to see how much liquid you have in there. Now, when I first started making this, there would be a lot of liquid in the meats, and I'm gonna have to strain it. If there is, definitely strain it. It will make it too oily if you don't. If there's not a lot in there, some moisture is okay, but you don't want a lot in there. So set it aside for a second. Take your chopped vegetables and then add them to the meat at this point. So they start to cook all together. Now, I stop the cooking when the onions are starting to get translucent around the edge. I still like to have them kind of firm in the queso itself, so you don't cook them all the way through. I think the flavors come out enough to flavor everything, but it still keeps them within themselves so that when you get a bite of onion or bell pepper or whatever, it's really flavorful. The other thing that I do, one of two things. One, if you use fresh garlic, there's something that I keep in mind when I use fresh garlic. If I'm going to cook the garlic and cook it all the way through, you can add the whole garlic clove. If you're not going to cook it, then you just need one or two of the little pieces. Otherwise, the flavor will be way too intense and it'll have that lingering garlicky after flavor. So cooking it in this, you can use the whole thing. I do one of two things. I either use garlic salt or I use sea salt and then garlic powder. It's rare that I actually put fresh garlic in this because you're cooking it. It's not gonna change the flavor either way that much. So once you get the meat is completely cooked, the vegetables are just right, put in your seasoning, and by that time then your kitchen is really going to be smelling good. One other ingredient that I use that you might want to be careful of, and that's the chipotle pepper. I like that. It adds a really good smoky flavor to the queso, but it also adds a lot of heat. So when I make it for my family up in the northern part of the United States, they don't like things that hot. So I have to use just a touch of it to give it that flavor, but not so much that it adds some heat. In the south, where I make it, where I live, I make it pretty hot and everybody likes it that way. So that's good. Also at that point, add your Rotel tomato. And the same thing with that. The Rotel is going to add some heat. So if you don't want to add the heat, then just use diced tomatoes in the place. So those are some of the variations that you can make in it. When I should have said this first, but the very first thing that you should do is take your crock pot, take the block of Velveeta cheese and split it up into chunks, where it's a bunch of chunks, and then add about a 1/4 inch of cream to the crock pot as well. And don't use the heavy cream or the whipping cream. That'll be too heavy. Use just a regular cream. That will help the crock pot heat up and start heating up that cheese. So do that first. Get that started. Put it on high while you cook your meats and your vegetables. Once you get all that cooked, so you've cooked your meats, you've cooked the vegetables, you've had your Rotel or diced tomatoes, spice it up really nice, kitchen smells amazing. Then take that and add it to your crock pot. That hot meat sauce will help with the cheese to break down. So you should be seeing some of the process photos in this to see the different process. The cheese is going to look really weird to begin with, but once that cheese fully melts, it's going to look just like an excellent queso. And again, that queso is something that I get asked for more often than any other recipe. Hope you enjoy it. I hope you like it. Let me hear from you. You can find my book, Cooking on the Prairie with the Ingalls, on Amazon. You should be seeing a link to it. You can also find my other books on Amazon as well. This is my 3rd book, but my first cookbook. The first 2 books that I have are nonfiction, adding 4th and 5th generation of the Ingalls family, living the American experience. I hope you get my book, enjoy it. Again, let me hear from you. Thank you.